So I don't think the college experience is complete if you haven't procrastinated on at least more than 70 essays or things, depending on what subjects you have. So my quote by student is, "Never do today what you can put off till next week." And I agree with this quote strongly because procrastination isn't pretty. I remember with my SATs, I remembered, okay, I have at least enough time to study for 10 hours till like tomorrow, which is the day of the SAT. My score was an 1100, and that's mainly due to procrastination because I was too afraid for any type of studying. I was too afraid of how hard the test was going to be, and that resulted in a very poor score. But I still scored higher than my sisters. And another thing about procrastination is if you're going to take a test, like another test I remember is the CASI, which is an acronym. It stands for the California High School Exit Exam. And that's basically a determination of whether you can exit high school. It's one of the requirements. It's about, it has math and English. And I remember just hearing that it's basic and it's easy. And I never really took the time to study. And until I figured out that most students didn't score as high because they were lazy, they were just ignorant. And so I decided to study for a little bit. I opened the book, and then I immediately went to YouTube, and I didn't go back to the book. So procrastination isn't great. Another experience I have with procrastination is job applications. My parents depend on me for most of the time because we struggle financially. And I do have a job at Old Navy now, currently working seasonal. But before I was lazy. I was lazy to approach it, and I was scared too because I haven't really had any sort of like federal job or like working for someone for money, because I help out with my dad and I do it for the goodness in my heart because I just want to help out. And I would never really approach any applications. They would throw Disneyland applications at me and volunteering, anything to get me like some work experience. And I told them, yeah, I'll do it. And I never really did. And whenever they asked me, I was like, yeah, I turned it in. And one last experience was about FAFSA. And for those of you who know the FAFSA, it's a financial aid program that helps you receive money for college. And I remember I had to fill out a form and turn it 2 weeks prior to before it would close down. And I turned it in on the day it was due. And you have to mail it, and that it's not going to get there immediately. It takes time to process. So I procrastinated on that too. So in conclusion, procrastination, it's not good. It can cause more harm to you mentally than it would if you were to take the time to actually involve yourself in whatever you're trying to do. So procrastination is
Yeah. All right, well, I like the strong statement at the beginning. You had a clear point of view. There's no preview in the material, so it sounds like it's just going to randomly develop. Although in the speech, you did have four specific points that you're talking about. You had the SAT, the CASI, the job applications, and the FAFSA. So those are okay. in essence, they're just examples, but that's a reasonable structure. I do think that you were able to tell a better story on a couple of them than on others, but each of them had a little bit of detail to them to help make them interesting. Your voice is low key. You get dropouts in a couple of spots, especially right at the end. I think you'll notice when you're listening to your video later on, you'll see that as you're finishing the speech, it just like you just fade out. It's like a song on the radio. It disappears as you're speaking. Slow down a little bit, especially on the chassis example. I think that you'll notice that the pacing is a little bit awkward there. Your gestures, you've got a lot of hand wringing, especially the first 2/3 of the speech. You're doing this kind of thing, and you've got your hands together the whole time, and it wasn't until about 2/3 of the way through that you seemed to loosen up and actually use an indicator here or there, and then it was back to, I've got to hold on to my hand so it doesn't do something untoward while I'm giving a speech. I think that looks a little bit awkward. Your eye contact, I've mentioned this a couple of times. You do scan the audience a few times, but typically you are looking out, and this part of the audience over here, to your right, seems to be, I don't know what it is, whether there's somebody over there that you know, or whether it's just the corner that looks appealing to you. You kind of face in that direction, and whenever you get stuck, that's kind of your default position, that you're kind of looking over there. And I think you end up being a lot less engaged with the audience than you want to be. I thought you had a good summary at the end of the speech. Like I said, it was defeated a little bit by the dropout of your voice as you were finishing. Thank you.